Hi, this is Julia, Katelyn, and Natalie. Based on our own education experience, we recall what most impacted us, this being the time without structure in the classroom when we got to decide what we would learn about next. In our years of education, when our parents would ask what our favorite class was, it was undeniably recess. Not because we took a break from learning, but because we got to go outside, run freely, and discover a small part of the world for ourselves. In this presentation, we will be discussing our vision of an ideal early childhood classroom. Our ideal classroom would be called Nature for Nurture.
The first goal for our students is to put social and emotional health as a top priority. We want the content of education to be interconnected and include overall development and not just development in core academic areas. With all the raising issues in today's society, including depression, suicide, drug use, and more, we want to teach our students how to have mindfulness so they can live not only with knowledge, but live happily as well.
We want to move away from the focus on testing and only trying to make our children professionals, and instead ensure that they develop into good human beings and are able to give to society in a meaningful way.
Our second goal is to ensure that all students are knowledgeable enough in the four main subjects: math, science, history, and English. We want them to understand the main concepts enough to be able to move on to the next grade every year with their class.
Lastly, we want our students to develop physically. It is important that the brain develops along with the body.
It is important to us that in an early childhood education setting, it nurtures the student's mind and body as well. We agree with Piaget in terms that a child learns through interaction and play. When a child is confined into four walls in a classroom, it leaves not much up to the imagination. But if we take away those four walls, we can expand on what a child can interact with, thus resolving this issue. Sustained conversations between one adult and one child in one setting do not provide the circumstances in which provoke questions demanding casual responses about inanimate objects. These occur rather in the course of free practical activity in a varied setting, and in play with other children and with adults who share practical pursuits.
Instead of having a past experience like us, where we were enclosed in four walls and assigned to a desk, we want to change this. Imagine a classroom without desks, without walls, where the sky truly is the limit.
Our ideal classroom is completely outdoors, all day, every day.
The environment of our classroom will be outdoors. Every day we will go to different locations, including paths to walk on, sightseeing locations, and more. The only materials we will need will be extra clothing dependent on weather for the students who cannot supply it themselves. We will live by the motto, there is no bad weather, just bad clothing. If the students dress warm every day, then they can successfully learn comfortably outdoors with no limitations.
To implement the Reggio Emilia approach to this curriculum. In the Reggio Emilia approach, the student is the central government. It recognizes students as self-governed throughout their education. We would follow the curriculum of this approach. Teachers will have a broad set of curriculum goals dealing with basic math, English, science, and social study criteria, but will mainly follow the lead and interests of the children.
The biggest teaching strategy for our school, Nature for Nurture, is creativity. Because many of the students are going to be leading the discussions, the teachers must be creative enough to turn these discussions into learnable content. For example, if the students see insects, the teachers must be creative enough to turn this into a discussion about science. Another example of this creative teaching style could deal with a student that is skipping rocks. The teacher could turn this activity into math problems by telling the student to count the rocks that they are skipping or count the number of times the rock skips. By doing all of these activities outside, the students should really enjoy attending the school and have better mental health and physical health from being on their feet exploring all day.
John Pestalozzi, an educational reformer, broke down the idea of students taking the action rather than a set-in-stone itinerary by orienting teaching towards the nature of the child's mind, which addressed a kind of cognitive developmental psychology and the embedding of this setting of teaching into my situation and my circumstances, which meant adjusting to the future adult's social situation. This double adjustment of teaching to both the cognitive and the social dimensions of life, as Pestalozzi described it, was supposed to lead man towards inner satisfaction with himself. John Pestalozzi's idea goes along with our teaching strategies.
Examples of other teaching strategies we would implement: language arts, retelling stories, formulating questions, journaling.
Mathematics, classifying, sorting, and grouping.
Science, recognizing reasons, recycling, composting. Through observation of this play-based learning, the teachers should be able to assess their students and see where they are at with the basic concepts being taught. There will be a small teacher-to-student ratio, so the teacher is always able to pay attention to who is learning what and how they are picking up on the concepts that the teacher explains. If need be, there will only be an assessment every few months to ensure that all students are where they need to be.
For guidance, we promise to create a trusting and nurturing environment. We will make sure to use positive guidance even when dealing with serious issues. If we find a student is misbehaving, before scolding them for doing so, we will look for a reason behind this behavior. Whether it be a need for attention or something else, we will find the root of the problem and guide them towards a more positive behavior.
Developmentally appropriate practice has 3 elements that we would follow in our ideal classroom.
First, DAP encourages youth workers to consider physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development and their interactions in developing approaches and strategies to promote social, emotional, and intellectual development of youth.
We would follow the first one because we would focus on the kids' physical health by them being outside every day walking around. This would also help their emotional and social health because they would be happy for being able to do play-based learning, and they would be very social with their classmates as they were exploring nature.
Second, program expectations, content, and delivery should be adjusted to fit the youth's personal needs rather than expecting youth to conform to rigid program rules and demands.
Because the students in our ideal classroom are leading the discussions with their interests, it fits into their individual needs and wants.
Finally, DAP is a contextual or ecological approach. The youth's social and cultural context should be integrated into developmental opportunities to help ensure that they are relevant, meaningful, and respectful of both youth and their families.
We would make sure that number 3 fits, as everything would be culturally respective to both the students and the families. We would make sure that the families knew where we were going every day and the things that we were going to be doing for the teaching strategies.
In our Nature for Nurture classroom, we will prioritize students' social and emotional health, guarantee they are prepared for the years of education to come after, and encourage students to develop physically as well. In our classroom setting, a child's mind and body will be nurtured by taking away the 4 walls and expanding what the child can interact with and imagine. The physical environment will be dependent on the weather, snow, rain, or sunshine. Curriculum will follow the Reggio Emilia approach of students being their own compass. Our teaching strategies will be play-based, implementing a child's curiosity. Through assessment, we will ensure that the child is where they need to be mentally as well as physically. Through guidance strategies, we will keep a positive behavior within our ideal classroom. All while ensuring through developmentally appropriate practice, the students are developing and learning. Each child is being catered to individually to ensure success, and each child's social and cultural contexts are being accounted for. Thank you for watching. This was Our Ideal Classroom, Nature for Nurture Explained, by Julia King, Katelyn Zeitz, and Natalie Spencer.